So, hi everybody, welcome to October's edition of Working in Sustainable Technology. And this month we are exploring the topic of water and reducing water waste. Water is one of our planet's most precious resources, yet often taken for granted. And as soon as next year, it's estimated that 1.8 billion people could be living in water scarcity. Agriculture, manufacturing, sewage processes, energy, and of course our good friend AI are at the root of a lot of that water usage. And it's going to be increasingly important that we have technology and innovation that help us to conserve that water and make sure that that water has a high level of sanitation and hygiene as well, which is hugely important. So both of our speakers today are working in that space and are here to share with us the work that their organisations are doing. So we're joined by Thomas Jacks, who's a technology consultant at Isle Utilities, and Julien Lancha, who is the co-founder of Advizzo. But Thomas, would you like to speak to us first about the work you're doing at Isle?
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. So my title is the head of deal flow at Isle Utilities, and that's a slightly confusing way of saying I'm a technology scout. I'm the chief technology scout in a water innovation and technology consultancy company, and I'll get back to that in a couple of minutes. I'll just explain my journey to this point in the sector. So I started with a sustainable development undergraduate degree. And I did quite well in the degree, but I didn't do very well at planning for what I was going to do after the degree. So I had a few months of kind of panicking and trying to get a job. And then I ended up working for a company in the small wind energy sector. And they were making wind measuring devices to determine if your property or your site had the potential for like a small wind turbine. Back in the day when we still thought small wind was going to be like a significant market. Sadly didn't turn out that way. And I was in a sales role there. Turned out I'm not great at sales, and I didn't enjoy that very much. So while I was there, I applied and was accepted for Thames Water's graduate scheme. Thames Water's has a great graduate scheme. They spend a couple of months sending you all over the company to all these different sites, seeing all aspects of the business and training you to do. It was brilliant. But eventually they do choose a role for you. And I was chosen to work for a few months, at least in a department called capital planning, which is about how you spend your enormous budget. So, timescales of 5 years, basically spreadsheets. You go into the office and you look at spreadsheets. Not my bag either. So I was desperate to do something else within Thames, and I applied for the first thing that came up, and that was to work in East London at a massive sewage treatment works called Beckton Sewage Treatment Works, one of the largest in Europe. It's about 3 million people it serves. And the specific job was working in a sludge incinerator, which is you can probably get an impression, get an idea just from the name. It's a poo burning factory, basically. When you get loads of organic matter from the sewage treatment process, you can put it on fields and you can do loads of clever things with it. But in London, there's just too much. There's 3 million people's organic matter going to this sewage treatment works, and there's not enough fields for that. So they burn it and they make a bit of energy from it. But mostly they just get rid of this stuff, which otherwise you'd have to bury. So I worked in a poo burning factory for not very long, actually. It was only about 6 months, which was great experience. I'm glad I did it, like seeing the absolute business end of the water sector. But when I was offered opportunity to work in Isle Utilities, I did jump at the chance, and I've been there ever since. So Isle Utilities, we're sort of medium-sized consultancy, about 150-ish people. It's changing all the time, so I never have the precise figure. Spread all over the world. There's like 40 in the UK maybe, and then we've got offices in America, we've got a few in continental Europe, Australia, all over the place. So we're a very sort of distributed company, and the company is built around remote working predominantly. We have a few offices, but it's largely remote working and international working. And it's not a company with many. It's an unusual company, shall I say? It's one of those things when you learn about it, you can't quite believe it exists. But we don't we're a consultancy, but we're not an engineering consultancy. We don't design things, design new treatment plants or technologies. And we don't work so much on kind of typical business consultancy, change management and that kind of thing. We really are focused on innovation and technology in clean tech and predominantly water and wastewater. So we do some work outside of water and wastewater, but it's the vast bulk of it is for companies such as water utilities, companies in water intensive industrial sectors, mining, power generation, oil and gas, pharmaceutical, etc. Investors, governments, property developers, anyone really who touches on the water space is a potential client of ours. Oh yeah, and innovative technology companies we also work for. And generally, I mean, it completely depends the actual roles of the people who we interact with. It varies massively. A lot of our work is for water utilities, and generally we work with the innovation R&D departments, sometimes with executives in different sort of, it depends what the project is. And then, we as I said, we work with a lot of innovative people who have started a company, have got some great ideas, maybe need a bit of help navigating the sector, which is complex and difficult in some ways. It's highly, the water sector is highly regulated, and can be challenging. Or it's highly regulated and somewhat bureaucratic. A lot of it's still publicly owned. Even the bits that aren't publicly owned, there's still a lot sort of publicly owned. What should I say? They almost act like they are because they're highly regulated. So in the UK, for instance, Ofwat has a lot of control over what happens in the sector, and Ofwat is essentially an arm of government. So you're not owned by the government, but you pretty much follow the direction that the government sets. And so it's a challenging sector to get into on one side. On the plus side, it's massive. They have huge budgets. There's the infrastructure work that's going on all the time is considerable. Hundreds of millions, billions are spent every year on new water infrastructure. And once you get your foot in the door, and you become part of the framework contracts, and you get to know the procurement process, then it's a very reliable source of revenue. And also it works more or less the same way in all developed economies. So you can transfer your whatever it is, your product to different markets relatively easily without changing too much. So that's kind of where we come in. So we're there to facilitate innovation in the sector because it has traditionally been difficult. And we do that in a few ways. We run water innovation pitch events that are a bit kind of like Dragon's Den, or if you're not from the UK, Shark Tank, as in we get a big audience of water tech end users together. So the water utility people or the farmer mining people, they're the audience. And then we invite a selection of technology companies to come and pitch their innovative products, and they take questions. And so it's a way of introducing new technologies to a large group of potential customers all at the same time. And hopefully that leads to business development opportunities and progress in environmental terms. So that's a large part of what we do. That's why the company was formed, to run this global program of pitch events. We call it the Technology Approval Group, and it runs in Europe, the US, Australia, South Africa, Latin America, and it has run in other places previously. So we're constantly putting on all these meetings, introducing technology companies to their potential clients. And as we grew that, so it started in the UK, we spread it all over the world. And as we grew that, we sort of built a consultancy business alongside. So we were establishing a massive network of technology companies, end users, investors, anyone with any stakeholder in the water innovation space. We is basically part of our network generally to some degree. So we're able to, anyone with an interest in the space, be that commercial or research, we can probably find the people and the information that you need to know. So the consultancy business is more standard, well, tell us what research you need doing, we'll go and do it, and we'll deliver you, a report or a presentation or a workshop or what have you. And we attend other water sector events. We have other programs now about funding technology pilot trials, various things. We're always just trying new madcap schemes to accelerate innovation in the sector. The people who I work with, we're predominantly, it's like any consultancy, it's predominantly subject matter specialists, so people with a academic or professional background in water and the environmental sectors. So that's how it's structured in consultancies, because your time, the specialist time, is the product essentially. So you're always going to have the majority of people from those kind of backgrounds. And then obviously we have the usual kind of business functions, marketing and finance and all that kind of thing as well. So it's going pretty well. COVID was, I mean, as it was for every business, COVID was a challenging time because all the meetings that I was talking about used to be face-to-face. We were very resistant, although we've been a remote first company since 2010. We were doing remote work way before it was cool. We didn't like to do virtual events so much because we felt like the clients would get less value from it, and people don't like speaking on webinars that much. And if you don't have any audience engagement, then it all gets a bit boring. But we didn't have a choice, so we adapted to it, moved everything online, and then since then we've been sort of, we've been playing around with, well, do we do it a bit online and a bit in person? And it's been difficult. It really isn't easy to strike that balance, but yeah, we're getting there. And now we've got models where it's mostly online, and then we have a separate event where everyone gets together and has coffee and stuff. And the stuff that is exciting, I mean, obviously, as with any knowledge-based work, AI is really exciting. The capabilities it's promising are exciting for me, but that's also the daunting thing. Any knowledge-based work is I don't want to say threatened, but there's an element of concern of how much of the kind of specialist work that we do can be replaced by machines. I'll stop there.
Fab, thank you so much. I loved hearing about that journey into into IEL and some of those roles that you had to do, including the sludge incinerator. Loved it.
Journey.
Fab. And now, Julien from Advizzo, are you happy to share with us your journey into what you're doing now, what you're working on, and what skills you need to help you grow it in the future?
Yeah, of course, of course. So I've got a few slides just to talk a bit more about Advizzo. I'm just going to start a bit with me first. So I'm Julien, been in the utilities business for about 25 years now, started about 2001, so getting old. Anyway, I started in the early days of my career as a tech guy, so I've done basic university, starting to learn about network management, comms, and coding, basically. And I started as a developer in a consultancy company. I was working in the what is the ancestor of a smart meter, probably at the time, mostly for big commercial and industrial companies. And then I moved up into this company as a consultant, became a consultant, moved from place to place in France, starting in the south, moved to Paris, as a strategy consultant for a number of years, working for big energy retailer in France, like EDF, that you know in the UK, but a number of others working on regulatory framework, like market opening, like the market liberalization. So learned a lot of stuff. And in 2007, I moved into the tech software industry, and I was hired by Oracle, which is a big software firm, database firm, which had at the time building a specific unit on software for utilities. So billing system, metadata management, mobile workforce, all of these big software that we implement for infrastructure or customer information management or billing software. So I started to move there and did several roles, started into a consultant, as a salesperson for selling consultant, and then, which is the core business of Oracle, I ended up as a manager for selling software for large utilities in the world, traveling pretty much everywhere around the world to sell the portfolio of software from Oracle. And so I was one of the first one in France and Europe starting to sell software as a service platform, SaaS, that if you know a bit Oracle, they are a huge acquiring machine. They acquired more than 8,000 companies, I think, over the last 15 years or 20 years, and still continue. It's an acquiring machine, an emerging machine, so it's interesting to see that from the inside. And so they started to acquire software as a service cloud platform in the year 2010. So I was one of the first one seeing the acquisition of one of these platform, moving into the sale of this platform, because it's very different than selling cloud platform and on-premise. With one of my colleagues, at some point, we decided that was interesting, but we wanted to move ourselves into a SaaS company. So we started to look for it, and we found a company in the UK that in the end hired me and my other partner, Patrice, which is also my co-founder inside Advizzo. So we moved to the UK in 2013, started to work for this company called O-Power. That was a super SaaS platform from America. We worked there 2 years, but I think we pretty much ended up having a bit of challenging, selling something that is very US-centric in Europe was always challenging. And we made a lot of effort to find the first customer in the UK, in Europe. But at some point, we found that maybe it would be time for us to do something different and try to do our own, for a number of challenges and satisfaction. Needed to do something else. So in 2015, I left the company that I was working for, O-Power. My friend Patrice, and we decided to co-found Advizzo, which is the company that I'm still working for now. And Advizzo is actually a software as a service platform for helping utilities engaging their customer to save water, basically detect leakage and save water using smart meter data or meter data. So that's a little bit about where I started, where I ended up, and then I started a new journey in 2015, which is a 9-year journey that I'm in now as a co-founder and entrepreneur of Advizzo. So I'm going to share a few slides about Advizzo, so you could get to view it. Can you see my screen properly? All good.
Yes.
So a few words about Advizzo. So Advizzo is a SaaS platform using API, machine learning, AI for our customer, the utility customer. We work with a water customer, energy customer all around the world. And what we do with our platform is quite interesting. When the world we are in is a world of data, using smart meter data, this meter that they put to measure your consumption of electricity and water and gas. So it's with the wave of transformation in the industry, the digitalization and the installation of smart meter everywhere. For information, in the next 5 years in the UK, they are going to install about 10 million smart water meters. So we are actually in the wave of the installing smart meter. All utilities have been trying to use this data to engage their customers. But the challenge that they found is that data is generally not enough to engage customers. Customers are not interested by data. They don't understand data. What they do understand is insight. It's something that they can action on and take it, understand it, making them understand how they behave in terms of consuming water, and then use that to basically action and save or make an impact. And that's what Advizzo is all about. So we have created a SaaS platform where we run hundreds of experiments, what we call experimental design, on engaging customer in different situations, different framework, different message, to see what would work and what would make people change their behavior and save water, basically. And it's quite challenging to save water for all of us, because it's something that we consume generally pretty normally. So reducing your water, it requires quite a lot of work. In terms of Advizzo, we created in 2015. We grew from 3 people, the 3 co-founder, up to about 30 people. We're now about 15 people in the company. The company has a very mature software and mature result. We have been acquired, so we exited the company itself. So I'm not a co-founder anymore. I'm just an entrepreneur. The next step. I'm still working for Advizzo as a chief customer officer. We were acquired by the Callison Group in 2003, on May 2003. So we are just finalizing the integration at the moment of Advizzo inside Callison. Just as a matter of information, because I'm part of a bigger group now, so Callison is a major company into the smart meter world. They own about 14 million smart meter on the energy sector, residential smart meter, which is part of Callison Metering. We have been acquired as a data company and SaaS platform of Callison, but Callison also have PlugMeIn, which is a net zero company of Callison. So they install EV charger, solar panel, battery, heat pump. So we effectively have, interestingly, all the portfolio of assets to manage net zero platform and net zero journey inside Callison. The smart meter on one side with the installation on energy and water, Advizzo SaaS platform, and PlugMeIn, which is more on the larger asset like heat pump and or anything around EV and the rest. Well, just to give you a few more things about Advizzo, and to the extent of the experience we've done, this is pretty much where we have worked all around the world. So we've tested this platform for engaging and changing behavior on water and energy pretty much everywhere. You see in the UK, it's a lot in the water. We work in Europe. Some of these customers are not our customer anymore. Now we have about 10 customers, pretty much scaling at scale. So we are on large scale deployment of the platform. But we've gained quite an international experience from the United States to the UAE or Saudi Arabia or Europe. So we work on quite a few areas to test and grow our platform. And what I said, in the beginning, so we know data, we know people, and we found out that across our experiment and creation of the platform, that was a solution to changing behavior, using the data to engage people and create what we call insight. So, and what's very unique about Advizzo as part of our DNA that make our success is how we create that personalized or that insight that we derive from the data. Our core technology is, of course, design thinking approach, making user experience useful, interesting, but also one thing that I fall in love when I was working at Opera is behavioral science. So behavioral science it's been there for many years, but it's effectively a psychological approach that allow you to understand how the brain works and to use some of this lever of your brain, like social norm, for example, comparing yourself with your peers, that allow you to create the insight and make people catch the attention, catch the insight, the nudge, and actually act on it in some way. So that's what we do in Advizzo. We turn data into personalized insight to help customer to save and to help utilities to change their and make their operation more efficient. Just one use case is about one of our recent use cases. So we have a project at scale at Severn Trent that we do 2 things. One is engage customer to reduce water. The other one is detecting leak based on the data of the smart meter and tell the customer, engage the customer to resolve the leak. So in the most recent result that is public, if you want to look online as part of the Green Recovery Fund, so we engage on average about 100,000 customers in the second year of the program. So we've detected more than 700,000 leaks over the year, and we had an initial saving of about 1.6 million megaliter per day of leakage saving in that program. So I know you may not be familiar with the megaliter per day, but that's a lot of water saved. So 1.65 megaliter per day. If you were to pay that as a bill, it would be about £1 million of water that you should have paid if you had a leak of this size in your house. And the second biggest thing is, of course, the engagement, what we do with customer. We send regular communication to them with insight about their home and how they can save. And the water efficiency program that we have measured is over the last 12 months of this program, it's about 3.65 megaliter per day, so which is about 2.5 million pounds of water saved basically over that year. So that's for about 100,000 customers. Exactly, I think it's about 76,000 customers over a 12-month period. So that's a lot of water saved. That effectively about 7.8% of water saved for customers. And of course, all of this program also have other indirect benefit, driving digital traffic, increase net promoter score, increase call agent satisfaction, move people out of paper, etc. So that's broadly what the type of solution like Advizzo can gain from that. And it generally looks this type of thing. I was talking about comparing yourself to your peers, telling you into your house what uses most, giving you insight about how you can save, showing you your consumption month by month, day by day. So it's effectively how we engage customer with all of this insight, but sending a number of communication around the leak and around what you are doing. So now, just one last word, a few words. We're part of Calizen integrated. So the technology that we use in Advizzo is generally cloud technology based on AWS, using machine learning, data science, data engineer. So our team today is mainly focusing on a bit of front end, so a bit of development, software engineering on the front, but the back end is where we do most of the work. So data operation, data engineer, data scientist, machine learning engineer, AI engineer. That's the type of resources that we are using to do our work today. And going forward, no, we're not integrating a bigger group. So our roadmap is currently being massively expanded by the fact that we join a much larger and much bigger business than us. So which means much more technology that we're going to be using. But mostly, if I want to look at the scale of the Advizzo in a couple of years, the type of team and people we will be using are effectively on the tech side and stay on the data engineer, data science, and probably a lot more AI and machine learning coming in the coming years, which is most of our roadmap is heading. Not only AI and machine learning is a new tech thing. It's very trendy, but we also have also need more typical software development that integrate into this new technology. And I think that's all for me.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Julien. That was fascinating. Really, really enjoyed hearing about that journey. And all the work that you've done internationally, I think really backs up Thomas's point there that once you understand that infrastructure and how the water system works, that is really transferable into lots of other markets. And that was two really great experiences of that being the case. So yeah, thank you.